Welcome to Let's Talk. I'm Brian Jackson. My guest today is Jeremy Werner. Jeremy, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you employed at?
I work for Connect FM, part of Stevie J Broadcasting. Do a 3 to 6 p.m. sports show from 3 to 6 on Connect FM with Lon Tay. It's called the Tay and Jay Show. Been doing it since November 2010, and we're still going strong. We're the home of the Cardinals baseball as well, so we do pregame and postgame, but we talk a lot of Illini sports, a lot of Cubs, Cardinals, White Sox, and of course NBA, NFL, all those things.
Did you go to college anywhere?
I went to the University of Illinois. I was a graduate in 2009, graduated in the spring of 2009. After that, I worked for the News Gazette Company, was part of their Illini HQ coverage. I was a recruiting rap blogger, wrote a lot about recruiting. I also worked at the Paxton Record up in Paxton, Illinois, was a sports editor there. And then I moved on for a short period of time covering Northern Illinois football and Northern Illinois basketball and prep sports up in DeKalb. And then I got offered the job down here, and I always wanted to get into radio, just didn't think it was going to be this quick in my career, and I'm having a blast because I always thought growing up that those guys who got to talk on the radio for 3 hours just talking sports, that's a pretty good job. So I decided to come back and give that a shot. Right. It's been fun ever since.
I had begun my career as a sports editor of the Urbana High School Echo back in the mid-'70s, and then I went to the Parkland radio station in the late 70s. Then I went to WRTL in Rantoul from the late 70s to early 80s, and then I went to Associated Press from the early 80s to the mid 90s. I had a communications degree from Parkland in late 70s, and then I went to Eastern Illinois and got a bachelor's degree in 2004.
That's a lot of experience.
At Parkland. It wasn't at Charleston, it was at Parkland. Okay, topics today, we're going to first start off with Mike Thomas. We had talked about him on our initial show. How do you feel about the selection of Tim Beckman as football coach, John Gross as basketball coach, Matt Bollett as women's basketball coach?
I gotta say, for the first year on the job, Mike Thomas has been really, really busy. I mean, the fact that he's had to replace 3 coaches like that, I'm still waiting for Stats Inc. or someone like that to do, see if anyone else has ever done that, to fire your top 3 sports with football with Ron Zook after starting 6-0, going 0-6 to end the season. You fired him. I think a lot of people thought it was time. I think a lot of people thought that Mike Thomas was brought in here to make a change with football. But when you go 0-6, that kind of happens. With basketball, writing was on the wall. It seemed like, halfway through the season with the way Bruce Weber's team ended 12-14. He had to kind of make a change. The culture was just going down, and there wasn't a lot of optimism for Illinois athletics. And with what Bruce Weber said in the postgame after that Purdue loss, he kind of knew his time was coming to an end. And then with Illini women's basketball, Gillette Law brought a lot of excitement when she came here, got a lot of recruits, but a lot of them didn't work out, and the record spoke for itself. So I thought Mike Thomas, I think a good athletic director makes those changes. When you need culture change like that, when your top 3 programs are changing like that, I think you have to make a change. The selection with Tim Beckman, I know a lot of Illini fans thought, Tim who? When he was hired, because they didn't know a lot about him. But I think what Illinois got here wasn't a Kevin someone, a rising star that everyone knew, that was on the tip of your tongue. It wasn't a already guy that was a star. Like a Ron Zook, when he came here, everyone knew who Ron Zook was because he coached at Florida. What I think for the first time Illinois is getting in their football coach in a long time is a coach that's on the rise when he gets here. The last couple coaches who have come here was Ron Zook was fired from Florida. Ron Turner was unemployed looking for a job after the NFL. So I think you're finally getting a coach on the rise that has great success building a program. Toledo, when he took over them, they were in kind of a scandal, a point-shaving scandal. Their coach had resigned. They were 3-9 Tim Beckman's first year. The last 2 years, they've made bowl games, and they went 7-1 in the MAC conference. Their only losses are coming to Northern Illinois, which a lot of people would say is the best team in the state the last 2 years, the best Division I team in the state the last 2 years. So I like what Tim Beckman does. I think he's a great salesman. And what I mean by that is I think He drums up a lot of excitement. I think he can really sell this program. He's put together a pretty eclectic staff here with some people from LSU, Billy Gonzalez, Tim Banks from Cincinnati. He's got coaches from all over that I think are going to do pretty well on the recruiting trail. But I think his job's really tough because there's not a lot of depth on this football team. With basketball, John Gross, I made a list of guys at the beginning, and he was in my top 5. Another guy that I think a lot of people didn't know about until the NCAA tournament this year, but a lot of success at Ohio State recruiting with Greg Oden, Mike Conley, Daquan Cook, all NBA draft picks at Ohio State. Had a lot of success there under Thad Matta. And at Ohio, I know the conference record doesn't look very great. I think it was about 36-30. But when you have postseason success like they've had, they've made the NCAA tournament twice now. The fact that he can get his team to play well at the end of the year, that's one thing Bruce Weber really struggled with. They always started the season pretty well. At the end of the year, they always seemed to let down a little bit. So I think John Gross gets the most out of his players, and again, recruiting I think is really gonna help with him. And Matt Boland, he's the one guy that I don't think anybody could argue with. When he was hired from Green Bay, his record, you looked at it, and he's only lost about 12, 13 games at Green Bay in 5-6 years. It's unbelievable. Right. You think it's a typo when you look at it. But Matt Boland, I think Illinois is lucky to get him because Michigan's coach left Michigan to go coach at Green Bay after Matt Boland left. You know, and Matt Boland had a good job, and he was a top 16, top 20 program. He left to come to Illinois because of the challenge. He told me that one of the big reasons he came here is because he was recruiting a girl in Wisconsin or at Green Bay, and he had spent so many hours recruiting this girl, 150, 200 hours of his time recruiting this girl. She went on one official visit to Wisconsin, 3 hours. She verbaled. She gave a commitment to Wisconsin. He still couldn't get kids, even though he had a top 20 program. He thinks he can do that at Illinois, and his record speaks for itself, but all those coaches face a lot of challenges coming up.
I think it's going to be a long year next year for all 3 of them. I think it's going to be a real long year.
It's a lot of rebuilding here. I think football, the schedule really helps them, having 7 games at home. The non-conference schedule, I know it doesn't look daunting, but Western Michigan's a good team in week 1 to play. I mean, they almost came out of Champaign last year with a win.
That's true.
You got to go to Arizona State. Louisiana Tech's coming to Illinois, and that's a bowl team from last year. And if you lose one of those home games early, you're putting yourself in a bad bind where you might not make a bowl game this year. So and depth is an issue. I don't know how that offense is going to score because it's pretty much the same thing as last year, only you lose your top receiver, A.J. Jenkins, who's a first-round draft pick, which I think surprised a lot of people. You lose your top running back with Jason Ford. You lose a second-round offensive tackle, so I think there's going to be a lot of problems there. Basketball has a tough schedule as well, going to Maui. The men's basketball going to Maui to start the season, and they lose a lot, too, with Myers Leonard. I mean, Sam McLaurin was a transfer that comes in, gives them a little bit of a boost in the post, but you know you're going to count on DJ Richardson and Brandon Paul a lot, and that's been a tough go when you've relied on them the last couple of years.
Okay, let's go to the football draftees, Jeremy. Whitney Mercedes was drafted by Houston, A.J. Jenkins by San Francisco, Jeff Allen by Kansas City, Tabor Wilson by New England.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised. The first night of the draft, which is now on a Thursday night, they start the first round. I expected Whitney Merciless to go maybe to the Chicago Bears at number 19, and Whitney expected to go around number 19 to Chicago Bears. He told us that's where he got a little nervous, you know, that he might fall out of the first round. Ended up going to the Houston Texans, number 26, which I think is an interesting fit because Whitney all his life has had his hand on the ground. He's been that defensive end. At Houston, he'll be a 3-4 outside linebacker. So he'll have to stand up, he'll have to go into pass coverage. So I think he's going to have a long transition here. The one thing that's good about going to Houston is they already have a couple of really good outside linebackers, so he's not going to be counted on right away. He can kind of take his time to develop and get used to that. But the surprise of that first round for me was when A.J. Jenkins' name was called at number 30 to the San Francisco 49ers. I kind of sat there and said, what? Where did he go? I mean, I kind of expected him definitely be a third-rounder, possibly second-rounder. His name had kind of risen up. What a great year he had. I don't think he'll ever be a number 1 wide receiver, but when you pair him with some of that talent out in San Francisco with Randy Moss now, Vernon Davis, the tight end, Michael Crabtree, Mario Manningham, who had a big Super Bowl. He's kind of got some time to develop as well, but now Alex Smith, the quarterback, there's a lot of pressure on him to perform. But my surprise of the draft was Tavon Wilson going in the second round to the New England Patriots at number 48. Going into the draft, I heard he might not get drafted. He might go 7th round. At tops, maybe 6th or 5th round. He ends up going in the second round to Bill Belichick. He must know something that a lot of us don't, and he's done that throughout the years. Tavon's a really physical corner. And I think they really like that, and he's a reliable kid. I don't know if he'll ever be a superstar, but I think his versatility as well, playing corner and safety, I think New England really liked that. Bill Belichick really liked that. But you go back on that draft and you say, wow, Illinois had 4 guys in the top 48. That matches, that was one less than Alabama, but more than any other school. How did they not win more games? That's probably a reason why there was a coaching change.
Yeah. I don't think the free agents have a realistic chance, do you?
Well, we got Jason Ford, who's out there. Jack Cornell signed with the Baltimore Ravens. And Derek Dimke, a kicker. I think Derek's got a really good chance. Ron Zook said all along, and Ron Zook was a special teams coach in the NFL, so I take his opinion highly when it comes to this. He said Derek Dimke's an NFL kicker. And I don't know if it'll be this year or next year, but if Derek hangs around and tries to get on a squad, I think once he gets his opportunity, he can do it because he can kick from long distances. And he's been really, really accurate here for Illinois history. We've seen some of the Illinois specialists do well, whether it's Neil Racker, Steve Weatherford, which is on a Super Bowl winning team, got a huge contract. I think Derek Dimke's got a good chance. Jack Cornell has an uphill battle. He's just not as athletic as a lot of offensive linemen need to be at that level, but you get your shot and you try and make the most of it.
Okay. What about the Bears, Colts, and Rams? I think they're all 3 going to have a long season, don't you?
I'm more optimistic about the Bears, and it's not just because I'm a Bears fan. You look at that offense now. I know the offensive line still has problems, and a lot of Bears fans probably upset that they didn't draft an offensive lineman. They didn't draft one. I think they just thought that there wasn't a great one there. There wasn't a guy that they could plug in. You got to remember they drafted Gabe Carimi last year to kind of fill that hole. But you look at that offense, I think they have a top 10 quarterback in Jay Cutler. He's a guy who can win you games. And we've seen that in the past 2 years. The Bears were a playoff team until he went down last year. And that running back, I think you have a top 10 running back with Matt Forte. I know he's not happy with this contract situation, but he's going to play. I mean, he's got 7 million reasons to play, when he comes back. Then you add a guy like Brandon Marshall. I've never seen a wide receiver. I mean, I've never seen an all-pro wide receiver or a Pro Bowl wide receiver with the Bears. Marcus Robinson had 1 year. Marty Booker was a solid wide receiver. Curtis Conway was a solid wide receiver back in the day. But they add a big 6'5", legit Pro Bowl wide receiver that Jay Cutler knows and has a familiarity with. That offense could be explosive as long as Jay Cutler stays upright and he stays healthy. And even if he doesn't stay healthy, you have a capable guy right now, as opposed to last year with Caleb Haney. You now have a backup plan in place with Jason Campbell, who you signed. So that offense, I'm really excited about. They had Alshon Jeffrey, another big wide receiver that would have been a first-round pick if he could have came out last year. They had him in the second round. And then defense, you have some more great talents. I mean, individual talent. I don't know if the Bears have had this much since that '85 Super Bowl team, because now you have Julius Peppers, one of the top defensive ends. You have Lance Briggs, one of the best outside linebackers. Charles Tillman was a Pro Bowl cornerback last year. Brian Urlacher might not be Brian Urlacher from 5 years ago, but he's still a great linebacker. So I think they have a chance if they stay healthy. That offensive line will be key, but I think the interior is okay. It's the offensive tackles that I worry about. But the Rams and Colts, there's a reason they were drafting 1 and 2. Well, the Rams traded down, but there's a reason those two teams are doing that. And the Colts just purged everything. The only reason Dwight Freeney's still on the team is because of his contract. But I like what the Colts did. They're building around a new quarterback and Andrew Luck. They added Kobe Fleener and another tight end with them. Right. They got a long process here. They're going to be drafting high again next year. The Rams, I like what they did as well. Trading down, Washington wanted to get Robert Griffin III. They traded down and they accrued a lot of assets, added a lot of defensive players in this draft. They still need to add some weapons around Sam Bradford, and we'll see how he bounces back from kind of an injury-riddled season. But I think the Rams' future is sooner than the Colts. The Colts are in a long rebuilding process here. Okay.
Was it wise for Miles Leonard to file for the NBA draft?
I thought it was wise for his reasons. He had great reasons, mostly his family. When you have the opportunity, like Myers Leonard, who's going to be a first-round draft pick, he's going to be probably a top 20 draft pick. He could even slip into the lottery. But when you have the chance to make millions of dollars and change your lifestyle, he comes from a very, very humble upbringing in Robinson, Illinois. His dad died when he was just 6 years old. He was sleeping on the floor with no electricity, no plumbing for a little bit. You know, I mean, that's where he comes from. And the opportunity right now that comes to him, I know a lot of people want him back for Illinois' reasons, and I think for his reasons, coming back to Illinois and having one more year to develop would help him maybe in the long run. At the same time, it's hard to argue for his reasons, to help his mother, who's a really frail and has a bad back and can't get the help she needs because she doesn't have the money. She doesn't have the insurance to do it. Myers can now change his family's life. Now the question is, can he handle that? Can he handle the NBA? Can he handle it this early in his life? That's going to be interesting to see. He needs to get into the right position. With a lot of these guys, it is about getting in the right position. Yeah. I think he's going to go like 15 to 20, and I think that's good because that means he'll probably go on a pretty good team, and they won't count on him so early. There won't be a lot of pressure on him. But, you know, he's got basketball for life, so maybe he'll develop more in that then, but he won't have the game experience that would have in the Big Ten.
He might make it.
I think he's the first round pick for Illinois since Darren Williams and Luther Head. It's been a long time. And
he might be the last player drafted in the next 5 years too.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, Michael Henry's got a shot, but we haven't seen anything from him yet. He's got to get some more playing time. But
let's go to baseball here. Mike Matheny with St. Louis, Dale Swain with the Cubs, Robin Ventura with the White Sox. Were they wise choices, and are they going to still succeed?
I thought the Cubs and the Cardinals, those hires really made sense. The Cubs made sense because Dale Swain is a good baseball man. He knows his baseball. He's been paying his dues in the major leagues for a long time, most recently with the Milwaukee Brewers. I thought that made sense. And he's kind of a Theo Epstein kind of guy, a hard hat, lunch pail kind of guy. I like that for the Cubs. I think he'll teach these young kids a lot of good baseball. And right now they're playing good baseball. It's just they're not that talented. But they're getting the most out of their talent, and that's a credit to Dale Swain. Mike Matheny made sense because you surrounded him with a lot of the guys that were on the staff last year. You know, you got a lot of people on that Cardinals bench, including Jose Oquendo, Derek Lilliquist, a lot of their Chris Maloney, who's up in AAA. He's got a lot of good baseball people around him, and he was a catcher. He was a leader when he was with the Cardinals, and he knows the Cardinal way. So I thought those two made a lot of sense. Plus, he had a veteran team. He's got a really veteran team mixed with some youngsters, so those veterans will help him maybe get through the growing pains of being a manager. The one that didn't make sense for me, and I'm a White Sox fan, is Robin Ventura. It just didn't make sense to me because I thought it was a yes man. I thought it was Kenny Williams, the general manager's yes man.
Right.
Because now you kept Don Cooper, and now who's in charge? This whole Chris Sale thing has come up. Who's making the decisions? I have a lot of questions about Robin Ventura. He's never managed, never really coached at any level, and you make him the manager of your baseball team. I wouldn't have mind seeing him in the minors first, but he hasn't even gotten his feet wet. At least Mike Matheny has.
All right. Would the Bulls want it with a healthy Derrick Rose? Would they have won an NBA championship, and who do you think is now going to win it?
I don't think they would have. I really love that team. I love watching that team. This year was unbelievable what they did during the regular season with Derrick Rose out for so many games. They were 18-9 with Derrick Rose out of games. But then when he goes down, you knew the season was over. I was disappointed with the Sixers series because I still think they could have beat them. But then when Joakim Noah went down, that was tough for that team to deal with. And I think they just mentally, after Rose got hurt, said, now we're not going to do it. I think they would have given the Miami Heat a run for their money. And now that the Miami Heat might be without Chris Bosh for a while, I think the Bulls could have taken them down. I really do, without Chris Bosh, because he's kind of given the Bulls some fits here recently. But I still think if Chris Bosh is healthy, Miami takes care of the East. But I think a team in the Western Conference wins this year. And I wouldn't have said that at the beginning of the year. But the San Antonio Spurs, somehow they're the quiet team in this whole NBA playoffs, even though they're the #1 seed in the Western Conference. And it's not an old team anymore. Yes, Tim Duncan is up there in age, one of the best power forwards ever, and he had 26 and 10 the other night. But Tony Parker's still a good player. Manu Ginobili's past 30, but he's still good. But they've added a lot of young pieces, and so many guys on that team average 9 to 15 points. There's so many of them. I think there's 9 or 10.
You favor San Antonio then?
I like San Antonio, but I think Oklahoma City Thunder make it. That team is just so talented with James James Harden's been unbelievable as the sixth man of the year. He's given them another scoring threat to add to Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, who of course are superstars. But they have a deep bench. And now Derek Fisher on that team as well. They got a veteran presence. They're taking care of the Lakers right now. That's going to be a fun series, Oklahoma City against San Antonio. I think whoever comes out of that wins. But if Miami gets Chris Bosh back, I still think they have a chance. But that means LeBron and Dwayne Wade got to come up big in that clutch, and that's what they've been struggling with recently.
Yeah, I'd favor Oklahoma City. Do you follow hockey much?
I don't a lot. I know my partner Lonte loves the Blues, and that was disappointing. But those LA Kings,
all right.
I wouldn't count out that. I mean, they've won 7 straight playoff games, LA Kings. So
all right.
I'll go with the Kings.
All right. Women's volleyball, congratulations to women's volleyball and men's gymnastics. What a great story, both of them.
It's been a heck of a year for Illinois athletics outside of the revenue programs, hasn't it? I mean, it started last year with the baseball team making the Big Ten, winning a Big Ten championship, winning the Big Ten tournament, and going to the NCAA and winning a game. But you know, what a year for Kevin Hambley. How quickly, I mean, this program was good before he got here, but he's taken them to an elite level. I mean, in a Big Ten conference now where you're competing with Nebraska and Penn State, and I know Hambley still wants to get that Big Ten title. He hasn't gotten that, finished second a couple years. But he's turned them into an elite program that's going to fight with those two teams in the Big Ten for a long time. What a run of that title game, and Kevin Hambley will tell you they should have won that. They really should have. Now they lose a lot of that talent from last year. Kevin Hambley signed a contract. He'll be here through 2017 at the least. So they got a lot of talent. And I think he'll tell you this is one of the more talented squads he's had. It's just very young now. And then Justin Spring, what he's been able to do is remarkable as well. You know, winning a national title for the first time since 1989. It's great to have such a great ambassador for Illinois athletics and Illinois gymnastics with Justin Spring. And you talk to him, and you can tell why recruits, why his players love him. He had to make a tough decision this year by dismissing Tyler Mizuguchi from the team, you know, halfway through the season in March. And, you know, a lot of coaches wouldn't do that. Dismiss a guy who was an NCAA runner-up a year ago and let him go right before you're trying to compete for a national title. His team responded. C.J. Meistis, a freshman, you're going to hear a lot about him the next couple of years. And then Paul Ruggieri might be an Olympic squad member pretty soon here. So you got a lot of talent there.
I think that's the best chance of making the Olympics, so would be Paul Ruggieri.
Yeah, and C.J. Meistis has a chance as well. So.
Okay, the wild card topic that I was going to talk about, conference realignment in college sports. Who's hurt by it the most and who's going to benefit the most?
Well, at the beginning we thought there's so many possibilities when this all started, a year and a half ago, and there's still so many possibilities out there. When you sit there and thought we were going to have super conferences at one point. There's going to be 4 conferences. Then the Big 12 we thought was just going to be gone. But then Texas got what it wanted, got its Longhorn network. Now the Big 12 looks pretty stable. Now it's the Big East. The Big East is just crumbling right now. I don't think it's going to survive as a BCS conference. I think it's going to lose its BCS bid. But it's hard to keep up with who's going where. Syracuse and Pitt leaving the Big East. I think the Big Ten is going to stay where it's at. I don't know if there's any teams right now that they're going to add. Unless the Big East falls apart, they can add Rutgers and maybe get that New York media market in, because it's all about money. I mean, this is what it's all about. It's all about money. And now with college football, we're probably going to have a college playoff coming in here. It sounds like there's going to be a 4-team playoff. How that gets construed. College football is in a lot of chaos right now, but I think the change was necessary, at least for the playoff, and with all the money going out with the Big Ten Network and all these TV deals, that's what's fueling all the fire to this.
Okay, my final topic on this program, minor league baseball in Champaign. Will it succeed or not?
It's a good question. I know Mayor Don Gerard in Champaign and Tony Johnson, who's heading up the selection committee, they know they have a tough task on their hands, but they're dreaming big. And they're really attacking this thing. I think it's going to take a long time, this process, to try and feel out how they'll do this and how they'll fund it. I think that's the biggest thing. How do you fund this entire project? I think they'd like to do it mostly privately, because if taxes come into this thing, people aren't going to want to do that, especially with now at times. But I think if they do it right, it can be successful. And that's why I'm glad Tony and Don are taking their time. They're really trying to figure this out. They're not rushing into it. And you got to build a new stadium. If you want to do this, I don't think you can have it at Illinois Field, because if it's a sad statement or not, people want to go to a baseball game and drink a beer. And I think that's key. I mean, you can't do that at Illinois Field. We've seen some teams that have failed there. And if you get a minor league affiliate, I think that would really help. If you would be able to get, even if it's not Cardinals, Cubs, or White Sox, if you're able to get any kind of major league, minor league team to be associated with that, I think that would be big, because you can be seeing future stars. But I think there's a market for it. It's just about doing it the right way, getting the stadium the right way, getting the funding the right way, and then making sure you keep selling it, you know, that you have a really marketable product as you keep going.
Yeah, I've talked to them about it too, both of them, over at the Tony Johnson manages Don Gerard's son in baseball, and I have talked to them about it, and they seem to be optimistic about it. But I would think at least 5 years, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to take a couple years here. I mean, the planning stage alone would take a long time, and then if you actually get the green light and you actually go out there and fundraise for it, and then you get the money, and then you get the stadium, and then you get the team. I mean, that's a long process that we have ahead, but it's exciting. I'm glad that, you know, there's guys out there that are really trying to improve this community, and I think a minor league baseball team would definitely do that, because I think you get people, you know, within a 30-mile radius and 40-mile radius really wanting to come to that. I think it'd be a really cool thing to have in Champaign-Urbana.
It's going to be trying to be located up on North Market. That's where the location they're talking about. Jeremy, this concludes our program for this edition of Let's Talk. I'm Brian Jackson. Jeremy Werner, I want to thank you very much for joining me again.
Thank you, Brian.